Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Hangout. Welcome to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and we're live. This is a live stream, so if I mess up the intro, I don't get to fix it. So, anyway, welcome to Comics Are Dope. This is the Hangout. This is the live stream I do every Thursday, most Thursdays at about 7 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about comics. We talk about whatever subjects come to mind, and we have a good time doing it. So tonight we've got some comic book reviews, and then we're going to talk about like who cares about the reviews anyway, right? That's going to be a fun conversation. So I'd love to see who's here for it. By the way, like I said, we do this every Thursday at 7 p.m. If you're watching on the replay, I appreciate you. Hopefully, you can join us live next time. But for those of us who are live, go ahead and say what's up in the chat. My man Gabe is here saying, hey, hit that like button. I appreciate that. Tim's here. Mentor Prizes is here. Bunkmaster B is here. My man Kevin is here. Oh, it is a channel family party. All these channel squad members, yo, thank you guys. Thank you for supporting the channel, and thanks for being here on the Hangout. James is here with a typing emoji. Is that what that means? Can't wait to hear what you got. Oh yeah, we're talking. We're gonna have some fun with these reviews. I read a lot of comics. There's at least one that I retained zero information from, so there won't be a review, but there will be a what the heck did I just read? But yeah, shout out to the channel family. And since we're shouting people out, we've already come to that point in the show. Might as well do it. Let's shout out everyone who makes this possible for real. So the channel family, you guys see them with the badges in the chat. They have decided to support the channel with their dollars, and it really does help a lot because you know the algorithm is fickle. Sometimes these videos don't get viewed and so on and so forth, but we can make this content the content that we want to make and that you want to see because of supporters like those on the screen right now. So thanks to the channel family. If you'd like to support the show in the same way, you can click the join button down below, or you can consider making like a one-time donation via super chat while you're here. And then I got to give another huge shout out to the team over at Organic Priced Books. They are the best place to look online for collected editions, such as the stack behind me. Right now, I've been pumping that Milestone Compendium Volume 2 that came out about 2 weeks ago now. And I mean, look, I'm a big Milestone fan, but you can get the Milestone Compendium, you can get Batman and Robin, the omnibus, and hurry up because it's almost out of stock like everywhere. It's already out of stock with DC's main distributor. Not to scare anyone, but you know, go to organicpricebooks.com or just use the link in the description down below. You'll save $2 on every order with the code BJKicks at checkout. Now that we've done all the promo and affiliate things, let's get this show started, shall we? Nana, BJ. What's up? What's up? My man Noah. Noah, it's so weird because you've named your channel and my LCS is called Ultimate Comics. So like, oh, Ultimate Comics said, and it's not the same Ultimate Comics. My man Charles is here. We got a lot of people here watching. We don't usually have this many people right at the beginning of the show. So that's exciting. That's exciting. OPB is the way to go for those good deals. Absolutely. And you know, it's really cool that you guys can get good deals and support the channel at the same time. So I love it. It's a win-win. You win, I win, and OPB definitely wins. Yo, what's up, Justice? What is up? What is up? I don't think I missed anybody. Tayshawn's here. Everybody's here. All right. Gabriel said he finally read Batman Spawn 2022 and loved it. I loved the art. The story left a little bit to be desired for me, but what else is new with the Todd McFarlane written Spawn story specifically? Ant is here. Finally made it to a live hangout. That's what's up, man. Maybe that means my speech at the beginning like works. Like if I'm like, oh yeah, join us live one day. We'll be here at 7. Maybe it works. Thoughts on the Flash trailer? I watched it, and honestly, man, like because I'm not like I shouldn't say this because I didn't grow up on comics like the way a lot of people do. I just never like know what to expect from a movie trailer, right? There are so many of my fellow comics fans like you all who will be like, ooh, there's this Easter egg and this reference to that story, and I hope they do Nightfall, and it looks like they're gonna do. And it's like when I watch a comic book film trailer, I don't get any of those things from it, but I enjoyed it. Um, there's gonna be two Ezras, at least two Ezras in the movie. We're getting Michael Keaton as Batman, and yeah, I don't know, curious about it. It certainly looks like the most exciting DC film since I've been watching DC films, but well, excluding Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. So from the beginning of the Snyderverse to now, this is probably the most excited I've been about a movie. But as far as my favorite DC film, it's Shazam, and it's Shazam by like a mile. I don't know if this is gonna beat Shazam, and I don't really know what to expect this to be. I just hope that it brings it to a close in a way that makes sense for everything else coming around. You know, that's hope that makes sense. I'm excited. I'm excited for the film. Those are my thoughts. Yo, we got a new member of the squad. Charles, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate the support. It goes a very long way. So I appreciate it, man. And let's see. Most exciting DC film in a long time. I feel like it's so hard to tell anything by a trailer, right? Like, I think in general, comic book movies, like, I don't know if anything is matching the hype around like Infinity War and Endgame, right? And that's because we had so much teased over friggin' 10 years. And we kind of it was so much fan service. Everything else is kind of like starting from scratch since then. And the DC universe has very much sputtered. Now, when the new Superman movie trailer drops, I'm gonna be excited about that. That'll be cool. It's a Flashpoint type movie. Yeah, I did see that. I'm excited to see how they thread the needle on it, right? Like, if this is supposed to be like the official close of the Snyderverse and sort of opening of the, are we gonna call it the Gunniverse? That's I don't know. But if it's supposed to be both of those things, I'm wondering like how those things dovetail together? How does that work? I'm curious about that. But I do think it's gonna be a nice, fun, popcorn movie. So, and it's soon. It's coming out like in June, right? So that's exciting. But anyway, we got a packed show. I tried doing. I'm trying this whole branding thing, and like I went ahead and threw a few logos in here in StreamYard. The Comics Are Dope logo, I feel like just doesn't need to be here. So then I tried this one, right? Because this conversation is not quite approved by the Comics Code Authority. And then I was like, I don't really know. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just give this premium space to our channel sponsor, Organic Price Books. And no matter what I put in this corner, it feels like a distraction. So I'm taking it all down. Oh, man. Ultimate Comics, my man Noah is going to be at the theater watching Flash opening night for sure. You know what? Something I would like to do more in the future is get to attend some of those like advanced screenings. So I got to see Wakanda Forever like the Tuesday or Wednesday before it released. And that gave me some time to write a review, and that was cool. I'd like to do that more. But yeah. Kev likes the first little logo placement. If I put it there, I'm gonna be staring at it. So I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it off. But I think that'll be cool for like clips and stuff like that later on. Just trying to be more professional out here in these streets, these internet streets. But look, we got a pretty packed show. I got a lot of reviews to get to, and I do want to get to our conversation as well. So let's go ahead and start. Let's get to our first segment of the evening, that being recent pickups. So when it comes to recent pickups, there's really one thing, not one, there's two things I want to show off. So the first, this came in the mail. This was my, free gift for subscribing to the DC Universe Infinite Ultra tier. And I mean, it's the Death of Superman 30th anniversary deluxe edition. I saw some people online that were upset because it says deluxe edition, but it's a trade paperback. But it clearly said in all the promo that it was going to be a trade paperback. I think they're calling it a deluxe edition simply because there's a lot in here and it's got extras. It's got a bunch of extras as that like extras that you would find inside of a deluxe edition hardcover. But it's standard size and it's a trade paperback. But like if I compare this to just realize I don't have a Death of Superman trade, so never mind. If I was to compare it though, this is very much thicker. So that was my free gift for spending $100 on DC Universe Infinite Ultra. So was it free? Not at all, fam. But supposedly they're going to give you a free gift every year that you upgrade or every year that you renew your subscription. So I don't get like, is there really revenue in it for them? Like you might as well do it. I mean, like you're getting your money back. This would have cost, well, this doesn't even have a barcode on it because you can't buy it. You can only get it through the DC Universe app or whatever. Wait, does this have a fold out page? Oh, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. It does. Okay. This trade paperback is dope. Anyway, not that they're sponsoring this video or anything, but I think the DC Universe Infinite Ultra subscription is absolutely worth it. It was worth it without the trade, but like with a gift like this, that's at least a $30 value. It's like you're basically spending the same thing. So anyway, that's my one recent pickup. And then the second recent pickup, this just came in the mail from eBay. And this is The Brave and the Bold, issues 24, 25, and 26. So these are the crossover issues where, the milestone heroes make their way into team ups with the DC universe. I haven't read issues 25 and 26 yet. I did read the Static and Black Lightning issue. It was okay. It's written by Matt Wayne, who actually was an editor at Milestone and worked on a lot of original Milestone stuff. So the voices of the characters were fine. The art on this issue is by Howard Porter, and it made Holocaust just look like Hulk Hogan or something, and that was weird to me. But the other one, Hardware and Blue Beetle, and then Zombie teaming up with the Spectre, it's clearly just playing on the power sets and how they're the same. So it's kind of, to me, it's a cheap like idea or concept for these team ups. Like there's no reason for these heroes to be meeting up with each other except they have the same powers. But hey. Tim says he's still hunting for those. Yo, like I got those on eBay. No one else placed a bid, so I only paid like $10 for them. Paid. Did I say played? Only paid like $10 for them. So they're out there. My advice to you is just do like a saved search on eBay. That's what I do. And every morning I get new alerts as to what books that are on my list that have new listings. And sometimes I can afford to bid on them, and sometimes I can't. In this case, I could, so I was excited. Menterprise says a Milestone animated universe will be really cool. There is a Milestone animated film in development, so hopefully we get more news about that soon. I mean, we got Creature Commandos of all things. Omni Nation is here. Yo, Omni Nation. Day. I watched Olivia's Omnibus Haul, and you know what? I was worried because, Olivia's older now. Olivia like knows how to read and speak and stuff. And I was worried that the cuteness might be gone because she's not going to be mispronouncing these creators' names and stuff. And then she's doing it. And I was like, yeah, that's my Olivia. So it was cool. It was very cool to see. Tayshawn says, is it still in development though? That's a great question. Everyone that I have spoken to everyone says yes. Everyone says that it is still in development. My issue is that it was very early in development to begin with. It probably didn't need to have an announcement. Like they literally all they had was a poster when they announced it. And I'm a little bit worried because DC animated films don't take that long to develop, or at least they don't take that long from the time of announcements normally. Everything else that was announced at the same time as that milestone movie is out. Super Sons is out. The Jon Stewart joint that no one announced is out. All that. So I'm concerned, but not worried, if that makes any sense. Bro, she can read really good. I'm trying to get her to read some comics so she can do her own reviews, but we'll see. See, I know that she can read. I like it's clearly an act for the camera, but it's a great act. It's a great gimmick. I hope she keeps it up. DC animated movies typically get announced a year prior. Correct. That's correct. The milestone animated film was announced during DC Fandom 2021. 2 years. 2 years. Well, it's been like a year and a half, but we're still counting. But anyway, those are my recent pickups, and I was excited about my recent pickups. Also want to 8 out of 10. I gotta finish it. I didn't finish it. I was so annoyed at like the premise of I watched like the first like 20 minutes and I was like, what is this movie? And why are there so many people not named Jon Stewart in this movie? But yeah. So we did the recent pickups, and now we're going to move into the meat of the show with the reviews of the week. I read quite a few comics this week. Let me just go ahead and set them aside, the ones that I read versus the ones I didn't. And I'm not going to talk about all of them, but it's just important to me that I have them separated so that when I go back to my reading pile, it's actually the reading pile. All right. That's everything I read. And I'll figure out what order we want to talk about this in just a second. Tim said he's got to watch it. I'm going to check it out. And again, out here trying to be professional. So let's see. You know what? I know what I'm talking about first. I know what I'm talking about first. And that is I Am Batman, issue number 18. Finally came out this week. The John Ridley, Jace Fox saga is over. And man, I was reserving judgment until the full series wrapped. I don't want to judge anything on like just partials, right? Like give me your full artistic vision and let me judge it for what it's worth. And now that the full thing is here, boy, am I disappointed. Man, like, dog. So the Jace Fox saga. Well, let's talk about this issue first. What happened in this issue? Oh, so in case you don't want to be spoiled, that's what I need to put up here is like a spoiler tag. But anyway, in case you don't want to be spoiled, what's happened in the series so far is basically there have been like some groundbreaking changes made to the Fox family. And yeah, that's all I can say about that. Right. And so out of that new revelation in issues 16 and 17, we've got Jace. Basically, someone is trying to really hurt Lucius Fox or the Fox family. So Jace has to like save his mother. And so that's what has to happen in I Am Batman 18. He's got to save his mom while dealing with like some of the same identity issues he's been dealing with the whole time, and while allowing his friends, his allies, his partners that he's gained along the way to help him out. So his sister is basically his Robin now. So she's joining him on this like sort of final mission. There's this new mystery hero who I won't spoil, but if you've been reading the book, you know what I'm talking about. And that person comes to help out. And, it's Batman. So he wins the day. But I mean, and to that end, it's fine. It's a satisfying issue. It's fine. Uh, think I gave the issue itself a 7 out of 10. The art is really good. The art's been good for most of the series. My issue with this book has always been the writing, and it really is just, if you're gonna make a book with a black Batman, it's gonna have like a lot of weight on it. There's gonna be a lot that this book has to carry on its shoulders. There's gonna be a lot of scrutiny that this book gets, like, some warranted, most not, right? Just for the fact of its existence. And so you got to come out hitting. And John really did not come out hitting on this series. And it's not even just this series. We have 18 issues of I Am Batman, right? Before that, we had 4 issues of The Next Batman Second Son. And before that, we had 4 issues of Future State, The Next Batman. And throughout this series, we've been introduced to this kid, Lucius Fox's sort of long lost son, estranged son, who has come back to Gotham with the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's had a big mistake that he's made in the past, and he wants to atone for it. And in that quest for atonement, he stumbles upon a bat suit and was like, I'm going to use this. And so he becomes a Batman, just all unsanctioned, all, just stealing the Bat mantle, if you will. And then, they smartly move him out of Gotham. So now he's in New York City. And we've got him kind of making this journey as a Batman, becoming more confident in his abilities, or supposedly becoming more confident in his abilities, mastering his emotions, and therefore mastering his Batmanery, right? Secondary to that, we've got the whole identity struggle in the first place, right? Jace has done something bad, and he's trying not to be like the sum of his mistakes. He resents his family for the way he had to leave the family and all these different things, right? And this is supposed to he's got daddy issues, basically. He's got daddy issues, so they not vibing right. His brother, Luke Fox, Batwing, they're not really vibing right. Their sister, something happened to her. She's been incapacitated. Everyone blames each other, right? And meanwhile, Lucius Fox, by the way, because this is all coming off the heels of the Joker War, Lucius Fox was like Joker punchline venomed and not in his right mind. And so the whole family's in disarray. And so you wonder how over the course of these 26 issues, the family's going to get back together and get back to what matters and work better together and whatever, especially since they're like the richest family in Gotham and now presumably one of the richest families in the world now. And I wish I could tell you any of that stuff resolves itself. None of it. None of it. None of it. None of it. Not even the love interest. Like, there is so much left just open-ended. We haven't seen Luke Fox in 8 issues. Does he know his brother is a Batman while he's Batwing? While his dad also knows his brother? It's a mess. It's a mess. Look, I Am Batman had great moments, and issue to issue was good issue to issue, but as a full story, it doesn't resolve much of what it opens up. It doesn't answer most of the questions that it asks. It doesn't move the characters forward in any real discernible way. Like, Jace, Tim doesn't really go on a hero's journey. There's kind of some resolve between him and the police department, at least, but that's about it. That's about it. And this book was a whole lot of wasted potential. So the series on the whole got a very rare 6 out of 10 from me. Because if I rate anything lower than a 7, it's just I don't know. I just don't want to read it again. is generally now 5. If it's 5 or below, I'd never want to read it again. If it's 6, it's like I can see where you were going, but you fumbled it. You blew it. You blew it. I Am Batman just blew it for me. It is that unresolved. Like, I mean, and I never want to spoil a book, right? So from issue to issue, I kept saying, "Hey, I don't know how he's gonna wrap this up. I don't know how he's gonna wrap this up. I don't know how he's gonna wrap this up." Because I'm like, okay, at the time, by the time we get to issue 17, I'm like, all right, he's got to just say, all right, we did this, and then we did this, and then we did this, and then we did this. Or it's just gonna be a whole bunch of plot holes. Like this, the book, this book is written now that it's all over. The way this feels is that John Ridley was just content to have a black Batman, and he felt like that was enough. Like, because there's a black Batman on the shelves, I've done my job, and I don't have to develop it any further than that. I don't know. Like the way this ends as if it's got more story to, if it's got, not as if it's got more issues. Like it feels like it's resolved itself but left a bunch of stuff out. This ends as if it assumes that someone else is going to tell or pick up on some of those threads. And I just don't see this book getting a shot after that. Like I just don't. I feel like you ran the Jace Fox Batman saga into the ground and just didn't do anything with it. You're definitely left in limbo. There has to be something else moving the story forward. I don't think the story's moving forward, dog. I really don't. I don't think, I mean, if DC continues to publish Jace Fox Batman books, it will be as a charity case. But I'm like, they've burned up all their goodwill with this book to me. To me. And I'm someone who bought every issue and in many cases bought them twice because I was buying them online just to review them and then buying the physical copy, right? Like I feel like Tyra Banks, like we were all rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. So anyway, that's I Am Batman. These reviews are supposed to be quick, so let me move on to something else I read this week. I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't read all of Wakanda Forever #1. I read parts of Wakanda Forever #1, and where'd I put it? The parts that I read and enjoyed. So I don't. I'm so used to holding the books up that I keep forgetting I put the books on the screen. I don't have to grab the issue. But there are several stories in here. There's one by Karama Horn, aka the Blurred Girl, like on Instagram and everywhere else. And it's the first story in the book, and it ties in directly to John Ridley's Black Panther run, which is also kind of a much maligned run. And what's interesting is in these 3, 4, 5 pages, whatever Karama has, it's a very short story about a very brief moment in T'Challa's life, like trying to make a decision moving forward during the events of Ridley's Black Panther. And you see him sort of consulting all the Black Panthers of the past and, getting some advice. And I'm like, yo, this did more to humanize T'Challa and, make him feel like himself than the 14 issues we've got of Black Panther so far. So that stood out to me. And it's a for one, it's a strength of Karama. So I don't know if I'm saying her name right. Karama. It's the strength of the Blurred Girl. To be able to kind of weave Wakanda's history into like such a short little story. If you even want to call it a story, it really feels like this could have been 3 pages inside of a normal Black Panther issue, and they just didn't put it in there. Like it feels like a cut scene or like an extended scene or something like that. But it did a lot. And so I think that's the mark of a good writer. Hopefully she gets to do more stories. And I thought she did really good. There's another story here about a new Dora Milaje being initiated. I think it's written remember who writes it. It might be Angelique Roche. But the art is by Marcus Williams, who was the artist on an indie title called Tuskegee Heirs. And so I was really excited to see his Marvel Comics debut, and that's pretty good. There is also yet another Black Panther story by Junie Ba, who did the backup in issue number 3, aka issue number 200. And I liked his art and his story there. And this one, it's his story about the last Black Panther, who I won't spoil, but I don't think is going to be like anything that you really need as a speculator or a collector, as it says. But yeah, it was cool. I liked that story. And then also in here you get a lot of like little little interviews and stuff like that. So all in all, I think this is like worth it. It's worth the price of admission. It's $5.99. But unfortunately, it feels like a lot of what's great about this should be celebrated because it is great. But sometimes it just feels so much like, well, this is in comparison to what John Ridley's doing on the main title, and it's better, so therefore it's good. And I kind of want to just like hold off on this and read it later when I don't have the current Black Panther run like in my head, sort of muddying my ratings or whatever, if you will. So Wakanda Forever, though, the stories I read were good. I'd give it at least a solid 7. Probably could end up being an 8 out of 10. It was good. Rupert says you made it sound like the Seinfeld of storytelling, a book about nothing. Joseph says, in reference to I Am Batman 18, I really blame DC because they wanted to end this title probably because of sales. I was hoping that once the story went to New York, the characters would have been told a lot better. It felt like they were going to be, but I don't know, man. I don't know. There's another book that I've been reading by John Ridley. I'm not going to cover it here because I don't read it like as it comes out, but he's got a book called GCPD, The Blue Wall. And when I tell you that is some of the best writing in comics right now, like that little mini series is so good. And I have to wonder if it's because it's not like a superhero attached to it, right? Like Renee Montoya is in it, but it's a book about 3 rookie police officers that join the Gotham police force and how they respond to like their everyday stressors on the job. They each have different stressors and they each affect them in different ways. And issue 4 came out last month and really kind of elevated that one even further. Just a great book. Like I gave issue 4 a 10 out of 10. It was awesome. So John Ridley is a capable writer, but I'm not enjoying his Black Panther. I'm not. I mean, I Am Batman was was decent, but it didn't do anything. Like over 26 issues of story, I feel like there can't be that much editorial interference in the world. But I can't explain like why he's just not hitting on these other books. It feels like a personal choice of his to, do or not do something. So I don't know. But over 26 issues of I Am Batman, 18 issues of I Am Batman, but then 8 other issues of other books. Like, just nah. But GCPD, The Blue Wall, like, it's awesome. It is amazing, and I actually recommend anyone read it. So that's what's frustrating. That's what makes these other books so frustrating, because John really just feels like the kid that has all the potential in the world, but like won't use it. And I just feel like the disappointed dad. Anyway, another book I read this week. I'm gonna get this one out of the way because, so I read basically every book that I'm talking about today between yesterday and today. And Nightcrawlers was the last book I attempted to read. Nightcrawlers, written by Cy Spurrier with art by Paco Medina. And I couldn't tell you what's been going on. I couldn't tell you what has been going on with this book. Sinister spliced the DNA of Nightcrawler with a bunch of other mutants. So there's a Nightcrawler Laura Kinney Wolverine. There's a Nightcrawler Spider-Man somehow. There's a Nightcrawler Sabretooth. There's a bunch of Nightcrawlers. And they went on a mission to try to do something, and it got lost. It got lost, and I was just like, you know what? Maybe I did all the digesting I could do today, and I'm about to revisit this comic another day. So I'll read this over the weekend, and if you guys are in the Discord, I'll let you know what I think about it when I actually can read and absorb it. I couldn't absorb it. I was confused, and that could be a mark of the writer, but I'm just acknowledging that I wasn't willing to do the work to even try at that point. And Darius is here. What's up? Yo. First time here. It's my first time seeing you here. Welcome. And thanks for joining, man. Thorne did the same with Green Lantern. I gotta shoot my guy Jeffrey Thorne some bail because Jeffrey Thorne had a whole like 3-year plan for Green Lantern and only got to tell like the first year of it and wasn't told that he wasn't going to get to tell the rest of it. So that's a thing. And hey, it's very much possible that something like that happened with John Ridley, right? Like, as far as I understand, John Ridley's, Future State title, or what became the Future State title, was greenlit by Dan DiDio. And by the time it came out, Dan DiDio did not work at DC anymore. So maybe there was a plan to do a bunch of things, and then DC said, actually, no, we can't do any of those things because that will affect the real Batman characters, and we don't want to see them affected in any way. That very well could be what happened, and maybe that's what tied John Ridley's hands. Unless he goes in an interview and says it, we'll never know. But either way, whether it's his fault, whether it's DC's fault, I'm disappointed that the 2 years I spent reading I Am Batman were fruitless, except for some good art. Nightcrawlers was a fun read. I didn't even read Legion of X. I didn't read Legion of X either. So yeah, I think I was just like information overload. I'll check it out later on. I actually took a day off work tomorrow, so I'll check it out tomorrow or Saturday or something. Actually, no, not Saturday. Not tomorrow either. Tomorrow's my wife's birthday. Maybe Sunday. It's wild though. Found you like 3 years or so. Who's the most powerful black superhero? My brother said Blade. I laughed and said Blue Marvel, and then I brought to your video. I have Green Lantern Mosaic. I've got all the issues. I'm actually looking at them. Who do I think is the most powerful black superhero? I don't know, because if I'm honest, I don't like read comics specifically for black superheroes. When I see one I like, I grab it. But I mean, I guess like Jon Stewart is technically a god, right? Like, you don't get much more powerful than God. If we're going based on Jeff Thorne's Green Lantern. And then probably Icon. Icon's probably the most powerful black superhero, in my opinion. But yeah, I've never read Blue Marvel, so I couldn't tell you. Charles also says Icon. That's what's up, man. But yeah, so I tried to read Nightcrawlers. I couldn't get into it. I'll get into it later. The next book that I read, Monica Rambou Photon, number 3. I told you this was like a series I started reading mostly out of curiosity. I liked the cover A for issue 1, or one of the variants for issue 1, so I grabbed it. And then I grabbed issue 2 because I liked issue 1. I grabbed issue 3 because I liked the cover, but I also liked issue 2. So here we are, 3 issues in, and I can't lie. I told y'all, I don't really do a lot of cosmic storytelling. When you start traveling through space and meeting alien races, and they're trying to explain space time and how universes are collapsing, and hey, well, actually, you're living in a fragment of this universe over here, and you need to get back to that universe over there. I get confused, but but I really enjoy the voice of Monica Rambeau, and that's what's getting me through this comic. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. So I gave that one a solid 7.5 out of 10. And Monica Rambeau just can't get into it. I respect it. I respect it. Like, it's so interesting because as much as I like don't necessarily seek out black superheroes because they're black, when it's done right, there are a lot of like cultural nuances that I can pick up on in a book, right? In this one, in the Monica Rambeau Photon series, it's in like how she speaks to herself. It's like her voice, like just the her her slang, whatever you want to call it, right? But it is also how she interacts with her family that I'm like, yo, like this just sounds like one of my cousins talking to one of my aunts, and I like that. And so, yeah, um, that's the kind of marks that this hits for me. Um, I also I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that, or if I omitted the fact that I took into consideration that Eve Ewing, who writes the Monica Rambeau Photon series, is going to be writing Black Panther once John Ridley's done doing whatever he's going to do next month. And yeah, so I was curious. Like, I wanted to like vet her writing style, if you will. And again, I fully enjoy it. I cannot wait to read some interactions between Shuri and T'Challa written by Eve Ewing. I think that's going to be dope. But anyway, Photon number 3, pretty solid book, pretty solid issue. It's definitely like very cosmic, but I feel like it's putting respect on Monica Rambeau in a way that she hasn't gotten respect in the past, and I like that. I like that a lot. Um, let's see, let's see. Yo, JC is here. What's up, man? At my LCS yesterday, got the 9.6 slab of the first appearance of Cable, second print. And I saw the bagged reprint of Hardware #1 from the 90s for $10. That's what's up. That's what's up. If you found that, that actually is not a reprint. That's the original. They haven't reprinted the Hardware polybag. The only polybag that's gotten a reprint is Static. So if you found that in an LCS, it's the original, and $10 is a good price for it. So if you want it, grab it. So yeah, I read Photon. And did I read anything else that I wanted to highlight? We've reached almost everything except the book that I gave my new comic book day spotlight yesterday, and that is Icon versus Hardware, issue #1. I don't know where I put my cover A, but it's okay because I also got cover B by Kanan White. Let me take this off the screen so I can show you. Kanan White. Kanan White did a cover for Lumberjacks, which is published by Fourth Wall Comics, which are, my good friends and indie comics brohams, local people. But anyway, Kanan White is a dope artist. I did not meet Kanan. I've not met Kanan White, but he's getting some of his first like published DC Comics work with Milestone, and that's dope. He did a Green Lantern cover a few weeks back, months back, because Green Lantern's been over for a few months. Yo, we got to talk about one day how like comic books coming out every week really skews time for me. Like, I think I said in my review, I think I said in my review that Icon and Rocket season 1 came out or stopped coming out 6 months ago. It's been a year. It's been a year. Wasn't Monica Captain Marvel before Carol? Yes. Well, I don't know if it was before Carol, but it was definitely, she was definitely been Captain Marvel. I think it was before Carol, because Carol was Miss Marvel until like very recently. So yeah. Recently got Spawn #1. Should I wait for Todd to do his next private signing or get it graded unsigned? It just depends on how um important it is to you that it's graded. Um, you can get it graded, and if they do another signing, you can actually send in your slab and they'll open it up. He'll sign it and they'll regrade it. They won't guarantee that it gets the same grade, but it'll be graded with a signature. So you can do both technically, but I'd say if it's really that important to you, go ahead and get it graded, get it pressed and cleaned and stuff, and then it's preserved in the condition that it's in. And if and when Todd does another signing, then you got that and you can do it. But if he doesn't do another signing, at least you still got your graded book. I so can't, if that's what you said. I don't know if that's what you meant. Um, but yeah, sorry. So Icon versus Hardware issue 1. Read this book. I gave you guys my review, so I won't talk too much about it. I did want to I've had time to like kind of sit with my thoughts and read the book again, which I like to do my reviews on one read, gut reaction, and that's where like my ratings come from. We'll talk about that in a second. But Icon versus Hardware, you're getting this basically is a issue about mostly about hardware and like what he's doing since the events of Hardware season 1. And basically, like I said, he tries to find Icon's spaceship because he thinks he can use Icon's alien technology to his advantage. And in the process, he doesn't find it, but he does find a time machine, and so he's trying to like undo a bunch of stuff. And yeah, the way it ends is the way it ends, and we're gonna get a confrontation, it seems, in the next issue. My knock against this issue was that there wasn't any confrontation in this issue, and I'm like, yo, you got to come back hard, son. You got to come out swinging. And it didn't quite come out swinging, but it did give you a lot of good character development. You got Rocket in boarding school, sounding like Rocket in boarding school. We got a nice like sort of slow pan into, well, okay, what's everybody doing 3 months later? But I wish it would have like just jumped into some action, kind of like Static did last week. There was action in the book. I will say it. There was action. It's just not the action that you expect looking at the cover. So yeah. Um, Tim says Icon versus Hardware #1, 8 out of 10. It was a burner book, and I expected like a splash page or something. Yeah, yeah. I was actually like when I was trying to make the thumbnail for my review, I realized you don't even get like a full page of Icon, not him just being Icon. And I was like, that's a kind of that's a missed opportunity, I should say, because in general, I feel like this takes for granted that the reader read Icon and Rocket season 1 and or Hardware season 1. I feel like you need a very strong introduction to each of the characters on the cover, basically in every book, because every issue is going to be somebody's first, right? Especially when it's a big fat #1 on there. Like, I don't want to pick up a #1 and it feels like a #5, you know? Um, so even though you got a good like little synopsis at the beginning of the book saying, hey, previously on X-Men, I just feel like you needed better establishing shots or establishing pages. But to be fair, they're trying to tell a lot of story in this issue, and I don't know where you would have fit the establishing pages. But I mean, maybe that's just where you decide, all right, let's not try to tell it all in this issue. Let's tell some stuff. I don't know. I don't know how you achieve it because I'm not a writer, but I'm a reader, and it feels like there was a better way. Is how I feel about it. Uh, I thought it was a great setup book. It was a great setup book, but I would rather you have set it up somewhere else. Like, give me the setup in a previews page in some other book. Like, give me an epilogue to the milestones in history. Wait, you did do that, you know? Give me a few extra pages, in the static book or something, and like kind of tease that. And then when you get to this book, just straight up jump into the action. And if you want to like give a short recap as to why there's action in issue 2, then do that. But give me the action here so that if this is my introduction to all these characters, I'm like, "Oh snap, this is dope. I don't know what's going on, but I'm excited about it." And then you get the slow walk. And then when you do the hardcover in 6 months, which this has been solicited, I believe I saw the hardcover for this solicited for November. Um, but when you do the hardcover, include those 3 preview pages that you had stuck in the end of the other book, whatever other book it was, and then give me this. And now I got all the full context in the hardcover because I loved the original series. That's how I would do it, but I don't write comics and I'm certainly not a comic book publisher. So I can't tell anybody how to do their jobs. I just, tell them how it worked for me as a fan. Overall, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10 simply because of the slow burn nature, not because it was bad. It was actually really good. I enjoyed the art. I enjoyed all of the art. The art by Yasmin Flores Montañez, I believe it's how you say that name, was really good as a debut. I liked it. Like I said, I almost mistook it for Criss Cross. That's who I thought did those intro pages when we had Rocket in boarding school. So, yeah. Excuse me. Skip says, I'm in the movie theater watching Ant-Man. Jonathan Majors is so goated. Okay, General. Word. Jonathan Majors is freaking huge, dog. Like, I keep seeing these interviews and like the men's health things and all these other things. Like, that dude is jacked, as they say. It was good, but I expected more. Exactly. It was good, but I also expected more. And I read like every Milestone book ever. So, you know. JC says, what do you think of the announced Green Lantern Corps Omni by Tomasi and Gleason coming out in August? Also need to catch up on the new Milestone stuff. What do I think? I'm excited about it. I've not read the Green Lantern Corps stuff. I've heard it's really good. I do like Peter Tomasi as well as Patrick Gleason. So I'm not in the mood to be blind buying Omnibus anymore, but I'll check that out on DC Infinite to see how it is in preparation for it coming out. Because, I mean, where else are you going to get all the Green Lantern interacting with each other? I like the premise of that a lot more than, say, Green Lantern by Jeff Johns being a Hal-focused story, for example. Gabe says, hit that like button, folks. 30 watching, only 18 likes. Yo, I appreciate it. I appreciate the shout out because I always forget that fact, but liking does help it go a long way. Icon versus Hardware, 7.5 out of 10. And that's the last book I want to spotlight today. But that brings me to tonight's topic, right? I'm curious to know because I rated the book the way I rated it. And then I just happened to read the Adventures in Poor Taste review of Icon versus Hardware #1. And they gave it an 8.5. They rated it a full point higher than I rated it. And I was like, did I judge too harshly? I don't know. And then I thought about it and I was like, well, what do the ratings even mean to me? Right. And I've talked about the Kicks rating scale a few times, but I'll talk about it again now, right? So for me, if your book is rated 5 or below out of 10, it's just because I don't like it. Like I couldn't get into it. It just massively failed the interest test for me. Either the art was just that bad and distracted from the story, or the story was just that bad, or all of it was just that bad, and I couldn't do it. Right. So that's 5 and below. And I don't think I've ever rated it. I might have rated one book of 5, and I don't even remember what it was. A 6. A 6 is a comic that's just like, I could see where you were going, but that wasn't it, fam. Right. A 7 to me is a good comic with a noticeable flaw. Like this was good, but there's a missed opportunity here, or this is good, but the art just wasn't good. This was good, but the pacing just wasn't doing it for me. This was good, but there was a lot of excessive dialogue, right? Like a book that is otherwise great, but just had something that just kind of kept taking me out of it, right? That's a 7. And most comics land in that 7 range for me. Then there's 8, which on my scale is defined as a pretty good comic. Like it was solid, art was good, writing was good, pacing was good. I didn't really find any like real harsh flaws, but you know, it also wasn't like the most amazing thing in the world. It was just good. It was a pretty good comic book. Great. Great comic book even. That's the 8, right? And then here's where the rating scale gets weird, right? Because the 9, a 9 is very much relative to me, right? A 9 on my rating scale is like my favorite book of the week is how have defined it in the past. If a book is a 9, it's just like, okay, this is hitting on all cylinders, and I'm probably not going to read something better than this week, but it's not perfect. That's the 9, right? And then the 10 is a perfect comic book. A 10 is like, I could not find a discernible flaw. The story was great. The art was great, or at least not distracting from the story. And I cannot wait to read the next issue, right? Um, there's not a, you know, terrible amount of perfect 10 comics for me. And I should also note that when I'm rating books, I rate them like just on the single issue. I try not to take in consideration like any issue that came before or any other issues around it or whatever, right? So, perfect 10s that I can remember. The most recent perfect 10 I gave to Immortal X-Men number 10. And really just for the way it subverted my expectations. The last page reveal on Immortal X-Men number 10 was like, yo. But I also liked how it was a really nice or good character study on Charles Xavier, right? He gives this speech in the book that is basically the equivalent of uh Forrest Whitaker's son's debate points in The Great Debaters to end the movie, right? It's like, oh, I could act with violence or civil disobedience, and you should pray I choose the latter, right? So that's Immortal X-Men number 10. I don't know why I I really hate spoiling comics, even though Immortal X-Men 10 is like weeks old at this point. But anyway, because of the way I felt at the end of that issue, I gave it a 10, right? Looking back on it, the art was a little bit questionable at spots, but the story was so good it didn't matter to me. So, what else have I given a perfect 10? House of X number 4 is a perfect 10 comic. Wait, no, House of X number 4 is not a perfect 10. But the one where they reveal I think, yeah, it anyway. House of X number 4 just packed a punch, like because the way it ended, it just ended. I think issue 5 might have gotten like it back up in the ratings for me. Um, there have been 10s. The most recent, oh wait, that's not the most recent 10. I just gave a perfect 10 last week to John Ridley's GCPD, The Blue Wall, issue number 4. I also gave For All Seasons a 10. But that was the story as a whole. I was trying to think of a single issue that I gave a perfect 10 to. Um, but yeah, so there are perfect 10s. Um, and Skip asked a good question. Does 10 mean perfect or just top of the craft, state of the art? And it's all subjective. So does it I don't know, right? To me, a 10 is just like I wish every comic was this. Like, and sometimes it's just that the art was just that amazing, right? Like, all right, let's examples from outside of comics, right? 12 Years a Slave, speaking of John Ridley. I will never watch that movie again, but it is the most beautifully shot film I have ever watched. Like, and maybe that's a strong statement, but when I was watching that movie, every time I looked at the screen, I was like, that image could be an image blown up to mural sized and hanging on a wall somewhere. Like, it just looked great. But it depicted like just really horrible things. So I'm like, I'm never watching this movie again. It'd probably get an 8 for me. But if I was just looking at the cinematography, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 all the way. My favorite movies are usually Christopher Nolan movies. I love Inception, but before Inception or higher than Inception on my Christopher Nolan rating list is The Prestige. And it's all about, or it's all because of that third act and how it got pulled off. And I'm like, yo, I didn't see it coming. And so it's like at the time, it's not so much that the movie feels perfect the whole time. It's that the movie pulls off something that I could not imagine it pulling off when I started it. And I was left feeling something. And that's typically the types of comics I give a perfect 10 to. Like, I didn't expect this to be that great, but it is great. And I can't think of anything wrong with it because of how I felt when I finished it, you know? And I think, there are so many things that you could talk about, or you could judge any piece of art for, right? But it's art. And so for me, what I enjoy is when everything feels like it's meant to be there and it wasn't just like a happy accident. It wasn't just like, oh, a happy little tree there, right? It's like maybe it was an accident, but it felt deliberate. Like House of X Powers of 10 felt that way. And everything since then really hasn't, right? And it's like you can tell. You can tell. And and I'm paraphrasing something that Scott Snyder said, right? But the best way to score art is not on like how good or bad it is, but on how successful it is at doing what it set out to do, right? If the creator is like, oh, you do this, or I set out to tell this story, and then you watch the movie and it's like, that ain't what I got out of that, then it wasn't successful, right? But for me, and my personal rating, it's mostly like, what feeling does your art give me? What feeling does this thing give me? And because it's art and because there are so many different approaches, it can be something different every time, right? Everybody that draws like Jim Lee ain't giving me the same feeling as Jim Lee, even though all the art looks the same generally, right? There's just something about it, a certain je ne sais quoi, right? I don't, you know, that's my thing. But that leads me to my question of the night. What does anybody's rating mean to you? Right? Because what I've illustrated throughout all of that is, hey, this is my personal rating system. And when I put a score on a book or a movie or a picture or whatever it is, right? It's not it's because of what it meant to me. I feel like it's not going to, like, it shouldn't have any bearing on you, you know? Like when I score a comic and someone else scores it higher or lower, neither of us is wrong. But what is that? Where does that put the audience, right? If If Siskel and Ebert give a movie 2 thumbs up, or I guess, are they both dead now? Is Ebert alive? Siskel's definitely not. But does it matter if you went into the theater and you didn't like it? Right? So I just wonder, like, when it comes to comic book opinions, what are you looking for somebody to say? Like, if somebody read it or rated it an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, a 10 out of 10, does that make you more likely to check it out? Or were there other criteria that you were going to consider no matter what? It's got grip for a second. I felt these. That's hilarious. Nah. Uh, Je ne sais quoi is one of the very few French terms that I remember because I took French during like a summer camp in ninth grade. And it wasn't even that they told us what it meant. It was just like pronounce or practice your pronunciation of French terms. Right. So what you're saying is I should ignore Skip when he tells you not to read Tom King stuff. So my wife, who I love dearly because she's my wife, obviously, right, does not read movie reviews, does not care about them at all. Very much does not care about comic book movie reviews. Like, and she specifically is like, look, I don't care what some nerd thinks about Ant-Man. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna be entertained, and I'm gonna take in that story for whatever it is presented on the screen. I don't care what they did differently from the comics. I don't care who they cast in a different role. I don't care. Is the movie good or is it not? And that's how my wife approaches like everything she ever watches. She's like, I'll judge it for myself. But, but my wife will not buy a roll of toilet paper on Amazon without reading at least 55-star reviews and 21-star reviews. So, like, reviews mean something at some point, but why? How I grade things and how I recommend things are separate. I grade on a more consistent scale. I recommend based on the person I'm speaking to and their likes. Personally, I listen to the words behind the rating. Ratings tend to be arbitrary. I've seen people give great ratings to things they hated and horrible ratings to things that they loved. That's kind of where I fall on it, right? Like, because when I read books and I do my little, if you go to the community tab on this channel, you'll see like my sort of I kind of stole it from J. Cole and DJ Booth, but they do the one listen album review. And so I do like my one read gut reaction. Here's a summary of the plot. Here's how I felt about it. And then at the bottom, here's a score just to kind of put a score on it. But it's all gut reaction, just how I felt in the moment that I was reading it. Right. What does that score really mean? Like, I told you how I felt about it. And then I gave it a score based on everything I've read up until this point and everything I expected it to be, and it wasn't. But like, I could be having a bad day, right? Maybe I wasn't in the right frame of mind to receive whatever information was in that book. Maybe I just watched some random C-SPAN briefing about global warming, and then I read about global warming in a comic book, and I was like, bro, like, why is this the exact same thing as the C-SPAN briefing? If I didn't watch the C-SPAN briefing, I wouldn't have known, and maybe I would have loved the comic book. I don't know, right? I feel like the ratings are arbitrary too, but like, are there standards and practices, right? Because now, the reason this question even came to my mind is I'm building a comic book commentary brand, right? Comics Are Dope is where I want people to come to discover good stories, and also to get an idea of what they might like based on what they've liked in the past, what I've recommended, and what the site contributors have recommended, right? There are stories that Bunkmaster B is going to review that I will never touch with a 10-foot pole. Maybe because subject matter, maybe because I don't like black and white art all the time. I don't know. Whatever. Same with Skip, same with anyone in life, right? But if we now have like a responsibility to try to objectively grade art in a way that encourages people to read what we think is good and perhaps discourages people from reading things we think are not as good, then should there be like, all right, how was the art? Scale of 1 to 10. How do you judge it? It's all art. I wasn't mentioned there, so I'm assuming that you'll read everything I recommend. Oh man. Let's see. Come on now, those books are golden. Not to be fair, everything that Bunk has told me to read, he's told me to read based on what he knows about my reading taste, but he's never steered me wrong. Four Kids Walk Into a Bank is one of my favorite books ever. And I only read it because Bunk and Skip told me to read it and we read it at the same time. Skip says, I believe there should be some level of objectivity to balance out the subjectivity. But I'm like, how do you introduce objectivity to a conversation about art? That's the question. Like, what is the objectively good or objectively bad? Like, I think there are things that we can all notice or um appreciate as flaws. If that appreciate is probably not the word, right? But like I can tell when dialogue just doesn't fit. We kind of all rolled our eyes at the Miles Morales Thor thing, you know? Um, but like there's other things where it's like, okay, this art style really doesn't work for me, but really works for some other people. Daniel Warren Johnson, if I'm being completely honest, his art doesn't do a bunch for me, but his art in conjunction with his writing does a lot. Like it just tells the story well. And there's something about it that the whole is now somehow more than the sum of its parts. If we're just going to speak in cliche phrases, right? So I don't know. If we're gonna have like an objective, list, we gotta have a baseline. And that's exactly what Skip is saying. The more you consume, especially outside of your comfort zone, the more you perceive a baseline within the craft. That's probably true. I feel like I can spot a bad superhero comic. Like, right? Like, I don't know. Skill is more objective than subjective. Yeah, like I can tell when a colorist mails it in, or when the inker isn't inking. Like, I can tell when your anatomy's not there. I can tell certain things, but I also grew up on TV shows and or 90s comics and TV shows inspired by 90s comics, right? So what if I look at a 60s comic and I'm like, it's not detailed enough. There's not enough veins popping out of the arm. Like that's just that's an issue with me. That inker ain't inking. Sun Tzu. I'll hear no DWJ art slander. It's not even, I got nothing against Daniel Warren Johnson because again, Do a Power Bomb was like my favorite thing that I read last year. But like on its face, it's not what I would have gravitated toward without a subtle recommendation or without seeing a bunch of rumblings or without seeing a groundswell of people that I trust in the community saying, this is the best thing I've read this year. Isn't there different baselines? I know people who hate The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen. I still haven't gotten through Watchmen. Still. But yeah, so I came here to ask you guys how you felt about people rating comics. Like, before you pick up a book, do you go to Adventures in Poor Taste? Do you go to CBR? who rates comic books anymore? Do you watch any of us and be like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna check that out. I do get people in my comments fairly often, specifically about milestone stuff, right? And by and large, what they say is, hey, your excitement for this made me curious. So I checked it out and I liked it too. Thanks for recommending. Right. And I mean, I feel like as long as we like just kind of highlight the stuff that we love, then that'll always happen. But I just wonder, like, what has a review ever done for anybody? Have not. I've read the first issue at least 4 times. At least four. I go to Comics Are Dope website for all my comic reviews. Nowhere I trust more. Speaking of, that's a perfect segue out of this conversation and into a promo. So now that I've told you that you should never trust my comic book ratings or anyone's comic book ratings, subscribe to my newsletter. It's called This Week in Comics. And you know what I do? I give you my comic book ratings every week, every Friday. I give you a really short blurb about a few books I think are worth checking out of this week's slate. So I can tell you that, which book was it? I can tell you that I Am Batman 18. I'll probably talk about it, but not in the nicest of words. Oh, Mosley. I didn't talk about Mosley. I forgot to. This was good. Issue 1, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, it was fine. I liked it. I'm down for this series now. So, but anyway, This Week in Comics, you'll get a few recommendations from me for books that came out this week, this Wednesday, and also a few recommendations for books that the deadline is coming up to pre-order. So you get my final order cutoff recommendations in your email inbox instead of you having to wait and, find it in the YouTube subscriber chat or whatever. And in order to do that, just go to thisweekendcomics.com. That's all you got to do. Skip says reviews give him insight on like what he might like. And I think the biggest thing with that is just finding reviewers you trust, right? There are I love Rockin' Robbie Billups to death. There are a lot of books he recommends I'm still probably never going to touch. His taste is different from mine, but when I listen to him talking about books and like what he likes and what he doesn't or whatever, I listen to the reasoning and I'm like, that could be cool. And so there's books I've tried because of that, right? I think you find a reviewer whose taste kind of likes whose taste sort of mirrors, aligns with yours. And if that's me, I appreciate it. I used to listen to reviews until I realized I was missing out on a lot of books I would have liked. Yeah, man, that's the other thing. There's a lot of people out here like just trashing stuff because they want it to be trash, not because it is trash. So, if I had to choose an approach, I'd probably choose my wife's approach, where she's like, look, I don't care what you say. I'm not reading your review. I'm going to buy whatever looks interesting to me. And if it doesn't look interesting and I find out that it's interesting later, okay, cool, I'll check it out. But, how often should we check the website for new content? The Comics Are Dope website, every couple of weeks or so. But the newsletter, thisweekendcomics.com, every week. Every Friday, you'll get a new email newsletter. And that's just the latest branch of the Comics Are Dope media empire. Miss Did I Ask Kicks. Exactly. Did I ask you for your comic book opinion? That's how my wife always looks at me when I'm like, oh, but they didn't. I wish they would have. She doesn't care. But yeah, go to thisweekendcomics.com. You'll get the newsletter. And whenever someone cool like Bunkmaster B or Skip and Tosh or Bunkmaster B and Skip and Tosh write a really dope article, you'll get a link to that in that week's newsletter as well. So that's the best way to stay on top of all of our editorial content, you know, us analyzing comics. And if you want to like just watch the channel for comic book news, reactions, fun, unboxings, hauls, all that, you're already here. You're in the right place. And I appreciate that. You're smart, you're loyal. And that's going to do it. That's going to do it for this episode of The Hangout. It was a good conversation. I thought it was an interesting conversation to have about, you know, the validity of reviews and how they steer your opinions. I was just curious to see how that works for you. But I'm going to go grab some tea, grab some water, and then I'm going to record episode 1 of the Comics Are Dope podcast. And I'll let you know when it's out on streaming platforms. Until next time, I don't know what you're reading this week. I don't know if it's anything I read, but whatever it is, I hope it's dope. And that was the time for the outro, but I was on the wrong screen. So, peace.